Think of a job application report which looks like this. To the director of the universe, your own self. Age, the youth of divine joy. Salary, Godhead. Wanted, reformers, not of others, but of themselves. Apply sharp, with no begging solicitations, but commanding decisions. Who have won not university distinctions, but a victory over the local self. Swami Rama Tirtha, mathematical genius, professor, reformer, sannyasi, and saint. The second Hindu saint to spread Vedanta right after Swami Vivekananda in North America, and yet, unlike Vivekananda, very unknown to most of us. Why? We will find out in this episode of Sacred.
Swami Ram Tirtha, incredible figure. We talk so much about, about Swami Vivekananda, who of course was a great pioneering figure, going to the West and delivering this fantastic message of Vedanta. But actually, soon afterwards, Swami Ram Tirtha, who was influenced by Swami Vivekananda, goes to the West too. He, of course, also takes the message and knowledge of the Vedanta and spread it in the West. Swami Vivekananda, of course, famously speaking at the Chicago Parliament of Religions in 1893, and Swami Ram Tirtha going to the West in 1902. Soon afterwards, to spread this great message, the light of India, to the world. There's another connection between these two great masters from India. Remember, Swami Vivekananda was a highly educated man too, and a prolific reader, prolific writer. Swami Ram Tirtha also in love with mathematics, a mathematics professor actually from the Government College of Lahore, where he got his master's degree, and then became a professor at the Foreman Christian College in Lahore. Remember, this is pre-independence India, so all of this is, of course, today in Pakistan, but at that time in India. And Swami Ram Tirtha, this exceedingly brilliant mathematician in love with mathematics, teaching mathematics in Lahore, but then turning towards Vedanta and really figuring out that there are so many commonalities between the world of mathematics and the world of spirituality, especially Vedantic spirituality, and taking that to the world. Another incredible figure. We should look at Swami Ram Tirtha in the same pioneering light that we see Swami Vivekananda. Of course, we don't do this because Swami Ram Tirtha left behind very little written matter, whereas, of course, Swami Vivekananda was a prolific writer. But I think it's important to revisit and revise the great legacy of Swami Ram Tirtha in this matter.
He said the only subject that comes closest to Vedanta as far as logic and rationality is mathematics. And the interesting thing is that he was so adamant and strong headed with his will in general in life to overcome adversities, which he did plenty of when they were young, extreme poverty in his house, and the will to even then get into university, study maths, propagate it, the will to remember Krishna, be immersed in the bhakti of Krishna, both outside and within. He was super adamant and strong-headed in that way. So even with maths questions, let's say some of the universities would not be able to understand complex problems, they would send it to him to solve. So once famously 3 questions had come to him. The first 2 somehow he had solved, but the third one the answer just was not coming to. And he decided to take his own life the next morning if the answer didn't come by the crack of dawn. And in the morning, standing on the terrace with they say, a knife to his throat, he actually made a little bit of a cut because the answer had not come. But then, so goes the divine will and the divine story, that the answer was emblazoned in the sky in golden letters. And he got it. But such was the humility as well, that when he was getting awarded for this, he said, it was not me. The most complex problem for which you're giving me the award was actually because of the divine. So I, Rama, he would talk in the third person, I'm just that. And the famous story goes in though that he would just call himself Bacha. He at that point realized. In fact, before enlightenment, he would say, "Chah churi churi tu, nicho ki neech. Main to pura Brahman tha, tu na hoti beech," which basically means desires. If you weren't there, I would have been Brahman. But after realization, he starts saying, "चाह गई चिंता मिटी मनवा बेपरवाह जिसको कुछ नहीं चाहिए वो ही शहंशाह." So we see this Badshah Ram then start.
It's an incredible story. Of course, Swami Ram Tirtha came, as I was saying, from the Punjab. And one of the things that is little known about him is that, we always think about the great revolutionary Bhagat Singh as a socialist. And indeed, he did have socialist connections. He was influenced by that ideology. But what we don't know and we never talk about is how much Swami Ram Tirtha, as this pioneering, blazing spiritual figure from the Punjab, impacted Bhagat Singh. So, in a sense, Bhagat Singh was highly influenced by the great teachings and the revolutionary fervor, spiritual revolutionary fervor of Swami Rama Tirtha, essentially bringing together Krishna Bhakti, as you said, and of course the great teachings of Advaita Vedanta and other parts of other sort of subsections of Vedanta, merging it all together in this great spiritual, knowledge and power that he wanted to give everyone. One of the legacies of Swami Ram Tirtha that has never been properly studied is that Bhagat Singh actually took a lot of ideas that Swami Ram Tirtha presented to the world and made it his own during his revolutionary struggle against the British Raj. And Bhagat Singh actually held up Swami Ram Tirtha as an example of great contributions that Punjab had made not only to India, not only to the Indian nationalist movement, but to the world at large. Bhagat Singh wrote this essay called The Problem of Punjab's Language and Script. And in that, he talks about the legacy of Swami Ram Tirtha in bringing about all these incredible ideas of spirituality that energized, reinvigorated India's nationalist movement, India's freedom movement, but also taught the world many things. And I think all of these ideas we don't know, all of these connections we don't know, all of the percolation of these ideas we don't know about. And not just Bhagat Singh. Let's talk about Ram Prasad Bismil, another legendary revolutionary figure fighting the British in Indian history, also deeply inspired by Swami Ram Tirtha, talking about Swami Rama Tirtha in his poem Yuva Sannyasi. And who was the Yuva Sannyasi? Of course, Swami Ram Tirtha. So, Vivekananda himself influenced a lot of revolutionary fervor, and so did Swami Ram Tirtha. And today, when we talk about India's revolutionary movement, we often don't talk about its connections to the spiritual world of India. But these are connections we need to hold up and talk about and present, because all of this was so deeply interconnected. India's revolutionary movement, the fight against the British, was as much a political movement as it was a spiritual movement. And I think it's very important to talk about these connections, to talk about, how all of these connections existed.
That's fascinating, Hindol, because he used to insist on secular and spiritual study going hand in hand. So you need to study Vedanta as much as you need to study the telegraphs or the steam engine in those times. So he even wrote a paper which became actually very famous on students for mathematics and how to excel at maths. And he said, unfortunately, students don't get enough exercise because they give academia that much importance. But even if you play chess, you need to exercise, right? He would say, don't shun good food and exercise. There are right times for studies. Follow that dinacharya, right? Even for teachers, he would tell how to impart knowledge to students with inspiration versus putting them down or making things complex. It's a beautiful paper on how to approach maths. In fact, it's funny, he loved maths so much, as much as he loved Vedanta. He would say that even when he took up sannyasa and went away, to Rishikesh to meditate, he wrote a farewell to maths kind of poem, right? Acknowledging that yes, that is important, but so is spiritual life. I mean, it goes hand in hand. And therefore, when you say that he inspired so many revolutionaries, in fact, I think the turning point for him, yes, he had come from a lot of poverty. Yes, he was a devotee of Krishna. He was a really good maths professor who balanced, the devotional aspect as well as the secular aspect of study. However, the turning point, as you said, was Swami Vivekananda, who has inspired so many people. And when Swami Vivekananda comes back up from America in 1894 and gives this talk in Lahore, where Swami Rama Tirtha is present, he's just blown away. He knows that this is the path he wants to take. And Swami Vivekananda, of course, recognizes that in him and says, you are going to be that person who spreads Vedanta. Swami Ram Tirtha rushes to the station in which, the train that's about to leave with Vivekananda in it. And the only thing he has on him, he was very poor. The only thing he has was this watch. And he gives it to Swami Vivekananda, who, of course, reluctantly accepted it, but said that, from today, we are connected through this in time to spread this priceless wisdom that is of India's legacy of spiritual knowledge. And Swami Ramatirtha would say, the reason India today is where it is, suffering how it is because we have forgotten this practical Vedanta. It used to be renunciation and action all of the time. That doesn't mean we're not doing the action. We were constantly renouncing action and the whole philosophy of Vedanta as it goes, right? We're not the doers, but however we continue the action, etc. Because he would say, India before the education system was reformed would follow the teachings of practical Vedanta as a day-to-day task in society, even if you're a sannyasi. But Lord Macaulay, when he wrote that letter in 1835 saying that the only way we're going to break this country is to break the spiritual education. That's the backbone that's keeping India going. And Swami Ram Tirtha urges us to get that back.
That's right, Neha. What an incredible story. An incredible story of a man so deeply connected to the highest ideals of Indian spirituality, of Hindu spirituality. A man who was constantly thinking about how to spread it, not just in India, but around the world. I thought of another connection between Swami Vivekananda and Swami Ram Tirtha. Quite like Vivekananda, who was helped by the Maharaja of Khetri in his journey abroad to spread the light of the Vedanta. Swami Ramtirtha too received help from the Maharaja of Teri, who assisted his travel to the West to spread Vedanta, to tell people about it. And Swami Ramtirtha's coining of what he called practical Vedanta becomes very, very useful to us, because in a sense that practical Vedanta idea made Vedanta accessible not just to many common Indians, but also to many, many people in the West who otherwise would not have understood how to use this great spiritual knowledge at a day-to-day basis in the world. And in this practical Vedanta, Swami Ramtirtha, hugely a proponent of the growth and the evolution of women, education of girl children, a huge proponent of dismantling the discrimination of the caste system, supporting women and children towards higher development and their care and their nurture, hugely a proponent of support for exploited labor classes and how to uplift them. So, really, a man of the poor, constantly worrying about, quite like Swami Vivekananda, about the poor and how to uplift them, how to find ways and means to really bring them to the forefront. Deeply connected also to many universities in the West, quite like Vivekananda, another common ground, popular among university students, university professors, just like Vivekananda used to be, and talking to them, teaching them about the depth and the width of Indian spirituality, of Hindu spirituality.
Yeah, and speaking about topics of the day, right? Women's empowerment and caste system, he would also talk about population explosion. I mean, he foresaw what were the troubles that we're going through now with the extent of overpopulation. He would quote texts like Yoga Vashishta, in which apparently Vashishta tells Lord Rama, you will be king, and to keep a check on population of the country. And he had warned Rama that if you won't, then nature has her way to balance through floods and tsunamis and earthquakes and all of that. So he had also spoken about newspapers, even though newspapers had just begun at that point. He said, it's not good, it's not healthy for the mind to read it first thing in the morning. If anything, first thing in the morning, you should be filling the mind with things of a higher vibration, spiritual texts and study of that. And he would say that, India's national Swadharma is spirituality. People around the world look to India for this. So we must recognize that people are looking here for solace. And if we leave this, then we're hurting the world. However, we also need to embrace invention and modern tools and technologies, but for the service of the world, right? Not for this incessant growth of capitalism. And it's interesting, he even a lot of Muslims would come to him, Christians would come to hear him. He would tell them the ills in their religions as well, that what was wrong. But he would also be able to explain their religion so well because he would talk in the third person. He used to say, Rama understands this. I have spoken in Arabia. I have spoken in Jerusalem. I have spoken in the battle of Kurukshetra. Wherever there has been mistruths, I will rise again and again, says Rama. So he never really referred to himself as I as a small self, but Rama in this, the greater consciousness that we all are. And so even when he used to address people in the audience, he used to say, you know, I in the form of ladies and gentlemen, or the one and only in the form of you, ladies and gentlemen, Rama addresses. So addressing everyone as that self as well, the capital S self. So the one lens I feel like which we can definitely look at him is through the practical lens of bringing self-realization into day-to-day living for not only the person but also for the society and thereby the country, and what we can do. So he would say, join hands. Let's say America, join hands. India's problems are not its own. If it suffers, if she suffers, you will too, because we're all connected, so beautifully crystallizing the depth of our Upanishads and Vedas for day-to-day living through many countless examples. If you read any of his papers, it's actually very fascinating. I can see the mathematical, logical mind at play.
The incredible thing about Swami Rama is that, Swami Rama Tirtha is that, there is a long legacy of such great saints. And I'm thinking, of course, of Swami Vivekananda, Swami Rama Tirtha, then, of course, Yogananda. All of these people at that phase of Indian history took the light of India, the spirituality of India, and spread it around the world. They were true missionaries. They were not looking to convert anyone. They were only looking to share the knowledge and share the light, share the illumination as to as many people as could be touched by them, so that they could benefit in their world. One of the things that Swami Rama Tirtha predicted was, in fact, the rise of India. After China's rise, he said the next would be India. And lo behold, in 2025, we know that that is coming true. After the rise of China, the next is India. So, in a sense, one of his great prophecies has come true. Just goes to show what a prescient man he was, what a great spiritual master, that he could look so many years into the future and predict what's going to happen with India. And many of these people could, Swami Vivekananda, what he said about India, then Rishi Aurobindo, what he said about India. I'm sure we will do, a conversation about Rishi Aurobindo at some point, and then we will discuss some of these things. Again, a great prescient master. But Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda, many people would have read his epic book, Autobiography of a Yogi. He actually translated many of Swami Tirtha's poems into Bengali and English, and made them popular among many people, setting them to music, bringing many of the beauty, or much of the beauty of the words and the lyricism of Swami Tirtha's words, teachings, preachings to the common man. So all of these people, in an invisible thread of spirituality tied to one another, connected to one another, all in the service of the great, offering of India, which undoubtedly is spirituality.
Right. And he would say this practical Vedanta is like a Kohinoor diamond. Whether you wear it in your head or you throw it in the gutter, it will not get affected. You are the one who is going to benefit by using it. So the spiritual and material success has to go hand in hand. There is absolutely no other way. And he also had a really funny bone, like I remember that story where he's on the ship going towards America with absolutely nothing, right? That's how he would travel after he'd taken sannyas. So when the ship docked at Seattle, and everyone's clamoring to get out, one gentleman comes to him and says, "This is the last stop. Like you should also probably leave. Where's your luggage? Let me carry it for you." And he's like, "I have no luggage. I'm just wearing this." He's like, "You must be joking. Where are the dollars? In America, you need this money." He's like, "Oh, I don't." Like, he means to say he's like the god that takes care of the ant and the elephant is going to take care of me. I don't need money. He's like, "There must be someone you know in America that you're going to." He's like, "Of course I do, young man." And he puts his hand on his shoulder and says, "It's you. I know you." And so this man, Dr. Albert Heiler, he takes him in for a year and a half and really looks after him. And Swami Ram Tirtha also helps around as to not be an inconvenience in his household. But he goes one day to see some waterfalls near San Francisco and absolutely falls in love with that beauty there and the nature and tells Dr. Albert, "I'm just going to stay here." He said, "But what about your provisions?" Again, he says, "Look at the robin, look at the deers. Whoever's taking care will take care of me. I'll stay here, don't worry." And he's at peace there. In fact, he even makes this makeshift swing to just sit there and watch. He should just love being outdoors, just watch the nature. When one day, President Theodore Roosevelt's cavalcade seems to be going by that area, and he wants to see the Swami. And so he asked the Swami, "What are you doing here?" And, "Come, I'm going to make you, the state guest. I've heard a lot about you." And he said, classic Swami Rama Tirtha, he said, I have made you president, and you're going to make me the guest in the Vedanta way. The Bacha has made you president. I don't want to be captive as a guest, please. I love to be free and, like the birds and the animals. And then he said, "Oh," the president's like, "Okay, I really must rush, but I would love for you to change your mind. Let me know." And he's like, "This is the problem. You say you're the leader of the free world, but you have no time to enjoy nature and beauty. And look at me, I have so much time. I literally am king." And so there are many stories like this where he would just be completely like dependent on God, to such an extent that when he's coming back from America, he, like you said, he had spoken at so many places, there were so many media articles. They said, "At least take something back so that you can share this in India." In the middle of the ocean, he decides to just throw that bag and say, "Anyways, I travel around the world in this one garb. इस सम्मान का बोझ नहीं उठा पाऊंगा," so to speak. I can't carry the weight of this acknowledgement and accolades. And threw it. So we have no evidence of the amount of work that he actually did in spreading Vedanta in the West. And one more story about the surrender, right? This blew my mind. I was like, wow, this level of trust. When he decides to take sannyas, right, he tells his wife and two children that I have to go. You stay behind, stay comfortably, but I must leave. And she tells him, how Sita went into Vanvas with Rama. I need to come with you. He said, on one condition. We're going to be fellow travelers, so we're not husband wife on this path. Secondly, you're going to leave the children in the middle of Lahore. If you trust God, that same God who gave them to us will take care of them. For a mother to do that, just how shocking. But she agrees. And they leave the two kids in the middle of Lahore's busy street and they go to the station. Now, because he had got quite a name as a professor and an orator by then in Lahore, people come to see them off, and some of them want to join them on their journey to Rishikesh. Of course, the wife is devastated. But just as the train is about to start, the two kids get pushed into the train. So she says, "Now, what do you want me to do? Throw them on the track?" And he said, "No, the same God that, gave them to us clearly has got them here for a purpose, that they have a role with us still." And so they carry on. But he sees a small bag that the wife is carrying. And he says, "I told you to leave everything behind." That was the third condition, to not get anything. She says, "But what if there's a medical emergency? We have children, etc." He says, "Come on, that's how much you trust God." And he makes her throw that as well. and also a lot of his disciples, you know. So that was some other level of trust in Dol. And so when they reached Rishikesh, like you said, the Tehri Maharaj actually hears of them and then, makes some provisions, which he didn't accept much of. But yes, they were never in want of anything. Something or the other would always be taken care of. And one day, this guy used to start getting him food when he was in this remote cave in Rishikesh. This is after even he's told the wife and kids to go back now. It's going to be in real sannyas. The guy gets him food, and every time he's about to take the food, he says, "Ah, thank you, Krishna. Thank you so much." So one day the guy's ego gets like really flared up, and he's like, "I bring you this food every day, and you're thanking Krishna for it? Really? You know? Who's going to know about you in these caves? It's me who's feeding you." He said, "No problem. Don't get it from tomorrow. Something will happen. Krishna will take care." So this guy's also like, "I'm going to show him a lesson. I'm not going to pick the food." But then he hides behind some bush or something to see what happens the next day. And this one lady comes with a glass of milk saying, "Swami, this cow is giving a lot of milk. We didn't know what to do with it." And she comes and gives it to him. And he drinks. And then she says, "Keep the rest for evening." He says, "No, I never keep anything extra. God will give me what he has to give me whenever the meal time comes." And she starts doing this daily. This man is so ashamed. He comes to him and cries and becomes one of his disciples called Ram Sevak. But yeah, just thought I'd share these stories about complete surrender.
No, it's incredible. These are incredible stories. Swami Ram Tirtha took the life of sannyas, in a sense, inspired by Swami Vivekananda, by the great, master. And he himself became a great master in his own right, completely devoted to the service of the divine, and completely surrendered to the divine. One of the names of the books that Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda, wrote, or rather translated from the work of Swami Ram Tirtha and put it together, is called Marching Light. And that's really what it was, and truly the March of Light. Swami Ram Tirtha marching with his light. Swami Ram Tirtha, in whose life the date of Deepavali was so important. He got so many important things on Deepavali day in his life, including when he gave up his bodily self. It was Deepavali, it was Diwali. That was the day that had become so important for him across his life. And it also shows that many people believe that he really gave his body up to Ma Ganga, to the Ganges River, rather than really, die, so to speak. He simply merged with the river on Deepavali day, on Diwali day, leaving behind not much in written form, but definitely a legacy of teaching some of the most incredible spiritual truths from India around the world.
That's right, and he was only 33 years old. So just imagine had he stayed, the impact that would have happened. However, like you said, priceless teachings he left behind. And just to conclude, Hindul, I'd like to share probably very easy, practical teachings that he was a big proponent of, apart from, of course, studying, Vedanta and scriptures. But he would say once in Hollywood, a very famous dancer, actress had come to him crying, 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 and just talking about her life for an hour. She must have wept. He was expressionless. Someone said, how can you be that cruel? He said, "You know what? The answer to this is Om chanting. Just 5 minutes of Om chanting with me." And in 5 minutes, she felt so much lighter and happier. And she's like, "Swami, I would love to marry you," and all of that. And I know we'll be very happy together. Of course, his wry sense of humor. He's like, "Just as how happy you were 5 minutes ago, where you want to keep me that happy." But on a serious note, he would give this remedy of Om chanting to almost anyone to immediately quieten the mind. So that was one. Of course, pranayama, he was a big proponent of, again, because he would explain how intimately breathing is related to the mind. And he would say, the only duty you have in this world is to remain cheerful. If you're morose, please close the door and don't spread this sickness outside, these germs of like being sad. Not because there are no troubles. Of course, we have troubles. But our duty is to uplift the self by the self, much like what the Bhagavad Gita says in the shloka, Uddaret Atmanatmanam. So he says self development. Give your personality a real lift. And these are some tools that you can use to give that personality a lift and continue doing this work without detachment, without this sense of ego. and gratitude. So, Hindol, as the final thing, I would like to say, gosh, gratitude to what level? There was one friend who had given him 11 rupees to do his to get into university for his maths exam. He never stopped giving 11 rupees per month back. Even right before he took samadhi, he told his disciple Puran Singh to money order this 11 rupees. There was this one mentor who had come into his life when he was young who showed him the Krishna way, Dhani Bhagat. And for his whole life, he sent Dhani Bhagat money, even when he used to not earn much. And when he started earning 200 rupees as a salary, he told these people, this friend and the Dhani Bhagat, you should be first in line when I come out with my salary, because people used to be standing to get money from him. Oh, I have this problem. He would distribute it all and he would give. And so that gratitude, that runa as he called it, that debt we owe to others, we should not forget. Then the ego will not come that it's me who is the doer. And so, in such a short life, he came, spread like lightning and illuminated this darkness for us, and will always be remembered.
Incredible, incredible story. There are three Swami Rama Tirtha mission ashrams, of course, in India today. One of them is at a place called Kotalgaon, Rajpura, near Dehradun. And there's also one, in the campus of the Hembati Nandan Bahuguna Garhwal University. You can go and look up these campuses and know more about Swami Ram Tirtha's life. What an incredible life! What an incredible saint! One more in our great journey to know the so-called lesser known saints in India. The lesser known saints in India are only lesser known until we get to know them, because each one of them has so much light to shine upon us. That's all the time we have today, but we will be back soon with another episode of Sacred. And you must take just a moment of your time to click on the bell icon and be connected to us. We have lots and lots of new material coming. Click on the bell icon, get connected to us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and fill your life with the light of Secret. Thank you.
Namaste.